Her latest book is called A Fox's Tale. It's this book over here, Chantell, Ilbury, Tackling Controversy, Reputational Risk, Providing Refreshing Perspectives to Entrepreneurship. This is the Moneymakers. I'm Bruce Whitfield. Tonight I'm joined by the strategist, the scenario planner, the author, Chantell Ilbury. She's not really the author, her husband wrote the book, but hey, let's give her some grace on that one. To discuss how she steers executive level strategies of global organizations to flags. Remember the flags? She and Clem Sumter invented the flags, but I want to talk specifically about the flags that are being raised in the last 26 hours or so, 27 hours or so. We've seen the Finance Minister of South Africa, Pravin Gordhan, come under renewed pressure from the state. The Hawks allegedly summonsing Pravin Gordhan and former SARS officials to appear before them on Thursday in South Africa. For what purpose? Well, the conspiracy theorists will tell you that this is a struggling Zuma government and its last-ditch grab for assets and for status and to get its hands on the South African petty cash jar. Others will tell you that perhaps Pravin Gordhan has done something wrong. Whatever the flags, let's talk to Chantell Ilbury about them. Flag waving is a South African pastime. The flags were raised in December last year when Pravin Gordhan was reinstated as Finance Minister after Des van Rooyen was fired after 90 hours, after Nhlanhla Nene had been fired after 18 quite successful months. Yes. The flags are being raised again. Are they black ISIS flags or what are they?
Well, I just think there are a number of flags at the moment that are interacting, and some of the flags that Clem and I have got, and I would connect 4 of them in this latest, is certainly around corruption, looking at our pockets of excellence, style of leadership as to what's coming into play, and independence of the judiciary and our institutions, which really, if you connect all of that, we now can say what happened yesterday in terms of the decision and, Pravin looking at tomorrow.
Now, here we've got the judiciary has been tested and has stood up well to that test in the first half of this year. We've seen the Constitutional Court, we've seen the ruling against President Jacob Zuma. We've also seen huge pressure, though, being brought using legal channels by either the president, his advisors, whomever it might be, I don't know, but the pressure that's being brought to bear on Pravin Gordhan is nothing short of extraordinary, considering the number of other issues that the Hawks may have to choose to focus on.
Exactly, and the timing. Why now? Why exactly now to actually do this? So one has to question, what is the timing? Just after municipal elections, what are we going for? What's underlying this move in terms of bringing Pravin Gordhan? He's stable. We brought him back. The markets are happy with Pravin Gordhan. He seems to have been doing a good job. He's been quite strong in terms of his view on state-owned enterprises, and
he's a menace to the corrupt, I would argue.
Well, exactly, to the corrupt.
Yeah,
yes.
It comes down to style of leadership too. It comes down to the flags that you might see when it comes to the ANC's electoral result. 54% of the national vote. And it's a local government election and we shouldn't read anything into it for the national vote, but I can't help myself. 54% of the national vote to the ANC. That's down from 60 at the last national election. It's down from a peak in the Mbeki era of 68-point-something% of the national vote going to the ANC. This is a gradual and a more speedy erosion of ANC dominance.
Yesterday I was in Johannesburg and I was in a taxi, and the taxi driver was chatting to me. And he was talking about the municipal elections, and he was saying, well, what's going to happen in 2019? Because he actually sees a very different picture. And his question, having been ANC, and then actually he said to me he changed over to DA, and he can't see who could lead in 2019. So I think we've opened up quite a window of opportunity. Here's a flag for you. The dog that catches the bus, once it catches the bus, it's not quite sure what to do with it. Does it jump on it? Does it pee on it? Does it grab it and shake it up? We've seen opposition parties take extraordinary municipal power in these last municipal elections. City of Johannesburg is in opposition hands. The Tshwane municipality is in opposition hands. Nelson Mandela Bay is in opposition hands. And in Cape Town, where we are this evening, we've seen the Democratic Alliance consolidate its hold on not only local, but of course on provincial power as well. Yes. Absolutely. So I think that there's been quite an extraordinary change since the 3rd of August in the political arena. And I think some people are starting to say, and certainly from the business perspective, is there a window of opportunity? Is there something opening up that we can now
do something, looking at the politics? I'm not sure.
We've seen Colin Mayane, the head of the ANC Youth League, in recent weeks suggest we should have an early elective conference for the ANC. Who's Colin Mayane? It was brushed off. Yesterday, Gwede Mantashe goes, maybe an early elective conference isn't such a bad idea. Now this comes days after the National Executive Committee of the ANC ostensibly comes out with its 10 or 14 or 15 or 16-point plan, whatever it was, which includes the takeover of state and enterprises by the minister, by the presidency, and to say maybe this isn't a bad idea after all. It does. What flags are you seeing in terms of internal leadership within the ANC?
It's a guarded secret every time we ask who could potentially be leading and what are we looking at, or who are we looking at in terms of 2019. And a number of names have been bandied around, and I think strategically, to me, it feels like there is no clear.
Well, but that can be the only flag, because without a palatable alternative, the ANC is better the devil you know. It's a metaphor.
Yes.
Better the devil you know than the devil you don't.
Yes.
But it could, looking at the flags that are being raised by the various elections that we're seeing and the deterioration of support by the ANC, is there enough public pushback to see a change of national government in 2019?
I think we can now entertain that as a small probability. Whereas before, I think that wasn't on the cards, and it was definitely beyond 2019 and the gradual, over the next 15, 20 years. And I think now there is a small probability that perhaps there is something that could happen as soon as 2019.
Unless the ANC chooses to be proactive about this.
Absolutely. And that means strategically they've got to start getting their act together and actually putting a couple of stakes in the ground. And I would definitely say the first stake is, let's look at this economy.
Yeah, well, the economy is in tatters. Signs of recovery up until this time yesterday. Well, let's say maybe not this time. It's 9 o'clock at night. So up until about 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon, I would have been very much like we're headed towards a potential pre-Christmas rate cut. Lone voice. Nobody else wants to play my game.
Yeah.
The rand is improving. It's taking the sting out of inflation. It all opens up the world of possibilities for the Reserve Bank. And then we get an announcement. Well, it's a breaking news story. The Hawks didn't announce it. They simply quietly sent the letters. It was broken by Murray and Tam on Daily Maverick, that the potential arrest of Pravin Gordhan is back on the table.
Yeah.
And we see in a moment the scenario switch.
Absolutely. And that's how fragile we are in South Africa at the moment. That just one little thing, and within a couple of hours, we've got a complete switch, and exactly what we've seen with the rand, playing out.
Do you have to be nuts to live in South Africa in the 21st century, or does it just help?
I think you have to be brave. And I'm thinking that you have to be incredibly astute, because this is not a market for sissies at the moment. And you have to, from a business perspective and just in a personal capacity living here, what happens from day to day seems to be shifting the landscape.
I mean, your book, In a Fox's Tale, which is this book over here, it's written by Chantell, Ilbury, 2 hairstyles ago. You talk about the journey of a woman in South Africa, a woman in the world, taking a strategist lesson into boardrooms with some of the toughest nuts in the world of business. I mean, you've come across misogynists, you've come across all kinds of people. Just how tough has it been to build a career in a man's world, in what used to be a man's world, forgive me?
Yes, what used to be a man's world, which is shifting, and if we have a look at the politics of who could be taking over our global world in terms of different countries.
It's either Trump, Boris Johnson, Vladimir Putin, and Kim in North Korea, or it's Hillary Clinton, and we stick with Theresa May, and we've got the nice Angela Merkel sitting in Germany. We'll be okay.
Yes, I mean, some people say that's a rock and a hard place between those two choices, but
I know which I'd prefer.
Exactly. Look, it has. I wouldn't use the word it's been tough. It's been really interesting going into boardrooms, working predominantly in a man's environment. I think strategically, seeing how different boardrooms think, how different boards think strategically, and executive teams has been incredibly interesting and challenging. And I haven't felt inhibited being a woman in any way.
No, that doesn't come across at all. It comes across as a bit of an adventure, frankly.
Yes, absolutely. A bit of an adventure and constantly a learning experience. And to see how, different people behave, especially when strategy is involved.
Now, take the boardroom scenarios that you've helped devise and you've overseen and you've been part of. Take those boardroom scenarios, transplant them into a cabinet with a far bigger board, a far less manageable board of, say, 30 people, as opposed to a board of 10 or 12 or 15. The dynamics of power that play out between the chairman and the chief executive and a board ostensibly of non-executive directors, predominantly independent thinkers, and take it into a government scenario. And just how much more successful government could be if it was more like business?
I think you're right in a way, if it was more like business, or if perhaps even the thinking opened up a little bit more in terms of power. I mean, the game of politics is absolutely different to the game of business. And we see that. So, if you were to take the power plays into a political world, it's a mess. And the agenda that drives those politics is very different to what we see in business.
Give me some flags, please, on downgrade, potential of a downgrade, December. Where are we sitting?
Well, I think the flag yesterday has
a big fat red one.
Yes, that is the flag that says actually where we thought perhaps we've just missed it this last time and we might miss it the second time. I don't think we're going to miss it if anything transpires from tomorrow with Pravin Gordhan. I think that's a clear flag that we will be downgraded. I can't see it playing any other way.
I prefer to tell happy stories at 9:15 at night. I really do, because people struggle to sleep after scary stories. Scary bedtime stories, you should know, having read to your son, that scary bedtime stories lead to lots of angst. Chantell Ilbury, thank you so much for coming in. Chantell Ilbury is a strategist. She's a scenario planner. Her husband's an author. This is her story, though he's written it, so it must be true, because it's all nice stuff about her. But also, it is a great world into how corporate insights are developed, how corporate strategies are developed, and she is one of the people in South Africa who looks at likely scenarios. And the scenario that is being painted tonight is that if it all goes haywire with the Hawks and Pravin Gordhan tomorrow, then we could see various kinds of fruit, and one of them including South Africa's economic prospects going somewhat pear-shaped. Sorry to be gloomy on a Wednesday night, but thank you very much for watching. Till next time on The Moneymakers, bye-bye.